In fact, it starts way back here. You recognize that showing up? Yeah, that's Lake Ontario. The sort of gray stuff is the built-up area. Graphic's a little rough here, so bear with me, but it'll become evident. And that's, you'll see Lake Simcoe above Toronto. And initially we had, in Ontario, in terms of tech, we had the Niagara Escarpment Control Act. We had Niagara Escarpment region, and that's what it looks like. That's how much land was protected under the Niagara Escarpment legislation. And of course, back in 2000, the issue became the Oak Ridges Moraine. And you remember that. And basically, if I made to look at the Oak Ridges Moraine issue, what was it? It was that land uses that were incompatible with the nature of the moraine were being promoted in a large scale. In fact, they, where they're going to pinch off the moraine with urban development, and there would be no east-west transit, and just generally there was issues with water quality, issues of low water flow in the streams flowing north and south off there. It was this recognition that there was this large landform called the Oak Ridges Moraine, and our land use planning system didn't recognize it. The land use planning system saw a white sheet of paper cut into pieces of property. Actually, that's exactly how it was when I started my career. Later on, they had contour lines on it, so you could actually see Oak Ridges Moraine. But initially, it was just, I always marveled, the first time I was in planning, lay out the map, there's no contours on this. How do you even know where you are, But that's how the planning system saw the Oak Ridges. And that was part of the central conflict. It was that the planning legislation didn't recognize the natural landscape. It was obsessed with the parcels, the property parcels, right? And in fact, when the Oak Ridges Moraine came, what happened was 3 environmental groups utilized their EBR right to request a review. And they filed a joint request for review of asking the government to review the land use planning policies of Ontario because of their failure to recognize the importance of this landform. And what came out of that request for review was this. It's just a part of it. This is a letter. I was copying. This letter says, it's in closing, the provincial government is committed to the environmental integrity of the Oak Ridges Moraine. We believe the guidelines, policy, legislation comprising the current land use planning system in Ontario provides that protection. And since this sound provincial and municipal framework of policy, guidelines, and legislation exists, each of us does not believe that a further review is warranted. It was turned down, signed by 3 cabinet ministers. This was, 2001. And this is the salient point. This is the only one that ever was signed by 3 cabinet ministers, right? It was the only one that will ever be signed by 3 cabinet ministers. And I'll tell you why. Because it just so happened the day I got this, I went to an event in Toronto, all the environmentalists were at, including some of the environmentalists who had put their name to the request for review. And they did this, oh, Gord, they turned us down, it's hopeless, we're going to lose the moraine, Gord. I said, what are you, nuts? This is the best thing that ever possibly happened. And they look, what are you, crazy? They turned us down. I said, I got signatures of 3 cabinet ministers under a statement that the planning process of the province of Ontario is adequate to protect the Oak Ridges Moraine. We know it's not true. We know it's not, the planning system is not adequate. But these guys, we got their heads on the block, right? And they said, oh, yeah. So what happened? We went, within 6 months, we went ahead to the OMB, on, the groups opposed the OMB. The OMB thing moved. It became evident at the OMB that the planning system, that the guidelines, policies, and legislation comprising the current land use system maybe doesn't provide that protection. But I've got a letter from 3 cabinet ministers that says it does. So what happened? All of a sudden, the government steps in, closes down the OMB hearing, passes the Oak Ridges Moraine Protection Act, giving a 6-month moratorium, and then rolls around and does the Oak Ridges Moraine Protection Act, putting under a special planning regime that exists still today, right? That's what happened because these people expressed their use of the EBR, and that's how we got the Oak Ridges Moraine Protection Area. So that's the legislation working well. It doesn't always work that well, but that's a good one.